everybody. I hope you enjoyed taking in some of the sights, sounds and smells of the rainforest. When we left off our story, the rail line from here at Tipekana was the only connection to the now bustling town of Queenstown. The smelters had begun their work and our little corner of the world was entering her most active in history. During the building of the railway had been the first step, but keeping it going would prove to be just as difficult, and for that the railway needed a dedicated crew. This time it's not just the men, it's also the women and children coming to live out here in the middle of the rainforest. As we have covered before, the train would initially run just between Queenstown and here, the busy port of Tipekana. The rest of the journey to Regatta Point was done by barge. And for a couple of years, this worked sufficiently. However, Bose Kelly was locked into promises that he had made to the government when he lobbied them for funding. The time had come to make good on his promises, and he undertook the relatively easier process of extending the track through to Strawn. The next hurdle, however, was one that they had needed to cross once before already, the King River. Prone to flooding with little warning, it's hard to imagine this now calm, albeit dammed river, a torrent of floods and loose debris. But you'll recall that Tipekana was built around the floodwater heights, such was the regularity of them. The first time that the rail workers had crossed the river, their solution had been the quarter-mile bridge. And legend has that the design and construction of that bridge was so intense, it drove its initial engineer to his death. So it's understandable that Bose Kelly was reluctant for a repeat performance. He decided he would simply buy a bridge and lay it in place. How hard can it be? Well, the Iron Bridge, which we're just travelling over now, was purchased from England and sent to Strawn in pieces. Each piece was transported upriver by barge, and once here, the workers started to assemble it, much like a large Lego set. Once assembled, it was time to put the bridge in place, and this is where it became a little difficult. See, the Iron Bridge itself weighs 110 tonnes, and all the workers had was a 20-tonne steam crane. The maths simply didn't add up. They had to find a way to make it. Well, their solution was they built two railway lines sitting side by side at the same width as the bridge. Using two steam locos, they then started to push the bridge out over the river. But gravity was never going to make that approach easy. At the halfway mark, it would always get a little dicey. But the team had foreseen this, and they had a large barge with scaffolding built up under the bridge to keep it level. So as those locos pushed from one side of the river, a team of men on the other side pulled the barge across using a series of ropes and pulleys. They had to keep them moving slowly and steadily, but once in position, they only had to sandbag the barge to sink it slightly, effectively lowering the bridge onto its waiting footings. All that was left to do was to lock the bridge in place, and it continues to stand here today. The Iron Bridge is the last remaining original bridge along our line at over 120 years of age, and we just crossed it. With the bridge complete, it only took 11 months to lay the rest of the track through to Strawn. And with that track complete, the isolated communities along the line had better access to the port of Strawn and all that it had to offer. The tiny school that had sprung up at Tipekana eventually closed, and the children of the line, locally known as the train kids, would instead catch the morning copper train through to Regatta Point, then walk along the harbour's edge to the primary school in town. So take a moment as we chug along the river to think about those train kids running amok through the rainforest on weekends. What mayhem do you think you might have been getting up to out here?
Right there. This side 37 Harvey Street, Strawn. Here we are on this train. Just going to Tasmania by Strawn. This will be one of my last times filming.
You're not allowed to happen though if you keep putting your hands down your pants.
Hey Mum, I hope I don't snore. Otherwise, what if I do snore? From last night. What if I do snore? Jack will have to go to your room.
As you look around you, it is hard to imagine this as a daily commute for anyone, let alone a child. But that is what those train kids did. We've heard stories from older locals recounting games that they played on their long journeys, knowledge of the railway line and its many bends and grooves, falling asleep in the guard's wagon, and being awoken once they were near home. As you can imagine, they were their own community of a sort. They spent long hours together, waiting on trains, sitting on trains, and on occasion running behind other trains. In winter, they would leave home in dark, freezing conditions, and often arrive home in the same rain. They'd still have to do all their jobs, like feeding the chooks, darning clothes, helping with dinner, and then fitting in their home readers. But I'm sure none of this would come as a surprise to the kids on board today. And they could do all of that and more to help out at home, surely. Once the rail line was extended, the need for such a large port at Tipekana was no more, as all the goods could go straight through to Regatta Point in Strawn. And so Tipekana's population diminished, and only a few families remained. One of the remaining train kids at Tipekana, Lyndon Hubbard, remains a friend of the rail to this day. Lyndon grew up at Tipekana in the 1930s, and while most of us would call his childhood extraordinary, to him it was just life. The same year that Lyndon was born, 1934, there was a record flood. At its highest, the King River was recorded as sitting over 8 feet higher than the rail line over the Iron Bridge. Lyndon tells us of their home. In 1934, the year of my birth, the King River flooded and destroyed Dad's cottage, our cottage. And it was after the big flood, that was when we moved up into what was called the old schoolhouse up on the hill. If you manage to pop into our little museum room at Regatta Point before Point, you might have seen some images of a young boy who grew up at Tivakana. That young boy is Lyndon. He stays in touch with our team, and we've been so fortunate